Hello, welcome back to Bethel Be Reading. Today's video is one that it took an epiphany today for me to make this, and I really hope there are other people who watch this or from the title you also come to this epiphany that you are also a slow burn girly too. I am wearing my Girl Dinner Astarian shirt because if we're talking about slow burn romances, if you've played Baldur's Gate 3, you know it takes a second for you and mans to get together. And also I recently met Neil Newbon at Too Many Games, so I'm just representing my man. I mean, every time I'm gonna romance Astarian. Every single time. But that's a side conversation for another time. I went through my collection of books and series to see what I have that do have the slow burn trope. And folks, let me tell you, okay, we really like this. We really like this trope. I'm honestly astounded because now looking at it, I'm like, oh, the books that I was really like kicking and giggling in my feet had slow burn. But I think also what I'm realizing, and I'll talk about it more in the video, is I think what I really like about the slow burn too is that in these books, the authors do a good job of like outside of the romance really making the world that they're in, because actually, aren't these all fantasy too? These are all fantasy. So the lore of the worlds go hard, and the romance is just, and some of them, they're not really a main part of it. Like the Cruel Prince series, it's not a romance book. Legendborn, I would say it's not romance. I would say actually most of these really focus on like the, and maybe I need a break from all these romance because I'm listening to an audiobook right now and there's just so much smut and I'm just kind of, anyways, so what we're gonna do, because I'm all over the place on how to go about this, we're gonna go through each of these books and I'm gonna give my review and just talk a little bit more about what it's about, how I felt reading it, and what I loved. So let's get started. You know, I have to talk about this one first because this is one I read recently and one I was really surprised that I love as much as I do, and that is the Powerless trilogy. The third book is not out yet. Fearless comes out in April of 2025, but the books that are out right now are Powerless and Reckless, and I read both of these books back to back in the last week. And I have to tell you, I'm very surprised at how much I loved it, okay? So if you've not heard about these books, Powerless is a dual point of view. It's a young adult fantasy book. This takes place in, I can't pronounce the name of the world. Let me not try to butcher it. Stars Payton and Kai. Payton is 19 years old. She's living in the poor area of this universe. I mean, she is a very good thief. She has long silver hair, and she is what is known, or what is called, an ordinary. So there are people who have powers, and if you have powers, you are set. You're pretty much set. You're pretty much set in this world. And if you don't, they do kill people who are called ordinaries, who do not have any powers, because they believe that, you know, if they kill all the people who don't have any powers, they're less likely to have more of them born. And they only want to have people who have powers. So she's essentially an orphan because her dad died when she was 13. So she's 18, going about the streets, stealing, trying to eat, get all this food, and her best friend Adina, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name right, is in this misery together. The other point of view is Kai. Kai is, I think, like 19 or 20 years old, and he is the prince of the king, who is the bastard who is out here trying to kill these ordinaries. So he has an older brother who is set to become the king, and Kai has been trained all his life to be an enforcer, who is the one who kills the people who don't have powers, the ordinaries. So Payton meets Kai out in the streets. She steals from him, and then there's he comes across this person who's even more powerful than him. Kai's power is that he can, if he's within vicinity of someone, he can mimic their power. I think that's a pretty OP thing. And except when you go against someone who's a silencer, who was beating his ass up. He was beating his ass. So Peyton comes in and saves him. And because she was the Silver Savior and saved him, she gets thrown into the purging trials. I will say it reminded me a little bit about the Hunger Games, because it's these people who get selected to be in these purging trials, and you come out at the end of it, you win. Do you win money? I don't even know. I'm going way too deep into this. What I will say is the banter between Kai and Peyton is my favorite thing. They really, through the trials, help each other out. There is kind of, with Kit is Kai's older brother who is set to become the king. There's a little bit of something there, but I will say, is it predictable? Yes. There's a lot of things that are predictable. However, I really like how slow the romance is, because it's really, I will say what's original about this is, to me, the fact that she doesn't have any powers. I do like that in a main character who's a little bit, who doesn't have an advantage. Like in Fourth Wing, Violet is small and she has a hard time getting up on her dragon, and she has, like, I like that. So what I really enjoyed is that Peyton doesn't have any powers, and that does show to prove that maybe you don't need it in order to be a baddie, because she is a baddie. She's out here doing baddie things. The way this ended definitely broke my heart, wasn't surprised, and then I read Reckless. Reckless, I don't think I could really go into Reckless unless you've read Powerless. I won't say much. This was good. There was even more banter than this. Shorter, but still good. Whenever I have an empty thought, I just think about Kai and Peyton. I think about what is gonna happen, because I don't know at times how they could make it. That, I will say, is not predictable. I don't know how they're gonna make it. It's just great. It's just great. Okay, that's enough of me fangirling about Powerless. I mean, the fan art is crazy too. The next one is Ninth House. I don't know how many more books are going to be in this series, but there's Ninth House and then there's Hellbent. I recently finished Hellbent. I read Ninth House in March. This, just like The Cruel Prince, the main premise of this is not a romance. Not at all. It's very much focused on, in Ninth House, Alex, or aka Galaxy, that's her name, can see ghosts. And she goes to Yale, and there is secret societies that do a little dabble with magic. There's also, if you like found family, you see more of it in Hellbent. There really is. I really enjoy the squad kind of coming together. Now, you may be asking, so if it's not really a romance, where does Slowbird come in? I see it, especially at the end of Hellbent. I know it's not mainly a romance book, and that's what I actually enjoy about this, but the dynamic and the way Leigh Bardugo is kind of throwing things in about Alex and Darlington, I do like it, and I'm curious to see if, you know, that is something that will get even more. We'll look into it in the third book. I don't think I've ever read a book that is at all like Ninth House and Hellbent. I mean, in the second book, they go to hell. They go to hell. It's crazy. It's mad. I actually will reread this series again. You know, she in the Hall of Fame of things. I don't also know how to go in depth, at least the Slowborn part, without giving spoilers. So I definitely, if you have thought about reading Ninth House and you want slow burn, or you want something that's not romance focused, this is a good series. I don't know if that makes sense actually having this now, but I'm gonna throw her in there. Oh, and Ninth House and Hellbent are adult fantasy. They are not young adult. Powerless and Reckless are young adult. So the next series is Once Upon a Broken Heart. I have read for Once Upon a Broken Heart, and I've read the Ballad of Never After. I've not read the third book yet, because I know the third book is gonna piss me off. It's gonna piss me off. If you do consider reading this series, I 1000% recommend you read the Caravel series first because Jax, who's the main character in this series, is in Caraval, and you get an understanding of his background if you read Caraval. It's also a very good series, Caraval. So please read that if you have been thinking about reading Once Upon a Broken Heart. You will not regret it. Eva meets Jax. They make a deal because she wants to stop a wedding because she believes, I don't remember his name, is her true love. But then she kind of gets warped into his world with the fates and whatnot. I will say this one's my favorite out of the trilogy. I have not read the third book. I'm a little scared to read it because there are people who have said that, you know, it's really pissed them off. And the way this book ends, I can see why. Because I have a feeling most of the third book is going to start off with the man I don't like. Who, what I will say is, like, it is very slow burn. Because Jax is like, I can't kiss you or I can't have you love me because my kiss will kill you. And the only person that he's ever done that with messed with his heart, and you will really understand that if you read Caraval. So yeah, he's like, no, if you're with me you will die, and she's like, but I want you, and he's like, no, it will kill you, and it's a mess, but I love it. And I also like the universe that's in it. It's very lighthearted. If you were a fan of the TV show Once Upon a Time, I know, Once Upon a Broken Heart, you will eat these up. But I know, you're like, you haven't read the third book. I'm scared, that's why. So next, we gotta have some Black Girl Magic, Legendborn, and Bloodmarked. I think there's going to be 5 books to this series. I read this a few months ago, so my memory about certain things is not quite there. I am excited for Oathbound to come out next year, and I will probably reread these before that just so I can get my memory freshened up. But this stars Brie Matthews, who at 16 years old, her mom dies in an accident. There is some questions about it because it doesn't add up the way her mom died. And because she's so smart, Black Girl Magic, Black Girl Intelligence, she ends up going for an early college admissions to UNC Chapel Hill. And there she comes across a secret society, which I realized for Ninth House, I said this was the first time I read a secret. I forgot about this. I forgot there was a secret society. And the secret society is people who are descendants of the King Arthur's Round Table. She ends up discovering a lot about her ancestry in this book. And she does find out, and I'm not spoiling anything because it is on the back of this, right? Yeah, she does find out that she is one of the descendants of King Arthur. That really gagged everybody. I haven't read many retellings yet, but this is the first time I've read one that's like a King Arthur. And the romance aspect of this is she is caught between a love triangle with Nick, who is one of the descendants of the King Arthur table, and Sel, who is a Merlin descendant. The reason, okay, I don't like love triangles. She does get with Nick pretty quickly, and I don't really like that. I actually do want her to end up with Sel. And he's on the cover with her on the second book, Bloodmarked. Sel is interconnected with Nick because he is his Merlin. He's supposed to protect Nick. Like, Nick cannot die. If Nick dies, so there's like a, I don't know, I also wouldn't mind if they all just ended up being together, like, as a throuple, but my preference right now is Brie and Sel, and then the throuple. Nick and Brie just got together so fast for me, and so I don't see, I don't see the I don't know, Sel and Brie are having the slowest of burns out of everybody, and so you get to see their banter. They really know each other on a deep level, and it's just crazy. It's hard because I don't want to give anything away. Last one, and this is more of a political, it's really not a romance, and it's the Cruel Prince series, which I read this in February. I read this a while ago, so follows Jude and Carden. Jude, her parents got yeeted when she was a kid, her and her twin sister. And she has an older sister who is part Fae. So her and her sister, Jude and Tarquin, I think that's their names, are human beings. This man comes and just yeets her parents, and he's like, you need to come back with me to the Fae world. So they go back to the Fae world, and she's raised by him, so he treats them like a daughter, but they did murder her parents. So tricky relationship there. He ends up marrying, I don't remember her name, but they have a child together. So she has an older sister, she has her twin sister, Jude, and then she has a younger brother, that he has with new wife. She goes to school with these people who are fae, and they get bullied a lot because they're humans. I know, being a human is kind of trash. However, I do not like the bullying that happened. Because Carden, Prince Carden, he's the prince. He has several other brothers and sisters so his claim to the throne after the king dies is pretty low because he has so many siblings. But he's a jerk. Him and his friends, they do life or death type of bullying to Jude and her sister. Her sister, though, is very much like, no, let's be complacent. Let's do their dirty bidding. And Jude's like, no, I hate you guys, and I'm gonna ruin your life. And then she does try to get her life back. I really like Jude. I will say, it was very hard to like anybody in this series. But Jude, at times, I didn't like her, but for the most part, if there was someone I liked, it was Jude. Everybody else was pretty trash. And Carden was towards the end. You definitely, it was slow for them. And this is mainly a political, like, you really do follow the political of the Fae world, and Jude really getting stronger in her combat, and because she wants to be a soldier. Her twin sister's like, I just want to get married, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but her sister and her are complete opposites in how they handle the bullying, what they want from their life. Jude is a badass. She's a badass. You've heard me rant about Zodiac Academy. I don't really like bullies to lovers, but I do feel like Jude got her lick back. She really did get her lick back. A lot more than Darcy and Tori in Zodiac Academy. And I really had to be patient at times because it was not easy to read this series. I realize now, editing, this is editing Bethel. I didn't really touch on the slow burn romance because it really was a subplot. Now that I'm thinking about it, it really was a subplot. But I still liked it because the moments that you did have with Jude and Carden and them tolerating each other over time, I was eating it up. I'm not gonna lie. I did end up liking Carden by the end, and I realized maybe this partially makes me sound like a hypocrite about Zodiac. I don't know. Something was different about Zodiac Academy, the bullying to romance, compared to The Cruel Prince. To me. So, yeah, there's much, now that I think about it. And now that I'm looking at these other books, outside of Powerless, there isn't much to talk about the romance because it's such a minor subplot. I think I'm just getting tired of the smut, y'all. I'm getting tired of these fast, and there's nothing wrong with it, but I don't know. Moon Reader me is not in the mood for any more like main romance books. That might change though, because I am so flippant and so much like the wind. Yeah. With the slow burn, you don't get a third act breakup. And it's so nice. I'm listening to an audiobook right now where it's so clear the third act breakup is going to happen because they got together so quickly in the beginning of the book. Granted, she's been pining after him for 17 years, but I would have liked some groveling, some more, because I do not like third act breakup. It's so predictable. It's been overdone in so many movies, films, books. These authors have really kicked butt. And there are some that I probably have forgotten about. What's an honorable mention? Okay, The Throne of the Fallen. This is a romantasy, but it's also a slow... This book is almost like 700 pages. So the banter they have is crazy. It's amazing. And you do get to know their backstory and them more. And it's Bridgerton. It's Bridgerton-like. Bridgerton, but fantasy. With werewolves and vampires and fae and unseelie and all that. Crazy good. I realized with my scattered brain there were some of the books I didn't say what genre they were. So the Cruel Prince series is young adult fantasy. Legendborn is also young adult fantasy. And the Once Upon a Broken Heart series is also young adult fantasy. And I believe I said what Powerless and the Ninth House series is. So that concludes today's video. I am going to go back to reading. I'm currently reading Babel. I'm listening to the audiobook Be Mine Forever. Oh, it's by Kenny Ryan. It's really, I'm listening to it at this point when I do chores to just kind of have it in my ear. And And the third book that I'm reading on the Kindle is One Dark Window. So we will touch base when I finish reading some of these books, and especially like we're already halfway through July, so soon will be the July wrap-up video. If you've liked any of these series, if you dislike them, if you agree with me, disagree, I'd love to hear your comments down below. If you're a slow burn girly too, or if you're not, I'd just like to chat because I think in the future I'm just going to kind of seek out more books that are that kind of vibe. And then when the vibe is there for romance, we'll read romance. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you next time. Bye.